presentation about the project. Basically, we will have two main results. The first one will be the psychosocial support, where we are going to work with about 500 students in East Jerusalem schools, mainly in the Old City and in Sharafat village. What? Yes, Awqaf schools also, always. The psychosocial support will focus on the violence, empowerment the students how to deal with violence, life skills, and hygiene. We will do a promotion campaign for hygiene. And the NGO who will implement it will be As-Saraya. With Madrasat Palestine, we are going to rehabilitate some we will rehabilitate the hygienic sanitary structures of the schools, and we are going to do some small activities like beautification and greening the schools with the assistance of the students themselves, so we can create a kind of commitment from the students to their school and to their area. This is the project in general.
As Federico was saying, this project is not exactly related to the environmental sustainability of schools, but somehow it can be mainstreamed. Well, as part of the sanitation campaign, the awareness sanitation campaign, particular attention could be given to the consumption of water inside the schools. Since the target groups are young, between 13 and 17 years old, they will be extremely, how could I say, I mean, they're extremely young, so it will be, the impact of such a campaign could be really, really great. I thought that also importance could be given to particular nutrition issues, also if it is completely outside of the project proposal. But since we are working inside schools, and since nutrition in Palestine, according to my experience, can be a great deal, I think it would be a good opportunity since we work with children. I don't know if you want to start a sort of discussion, imagining how we can mainstream the environmental sustainability with this project. Just for your comprehension, the project has started since 1 week, and the activities didn't start yet. So the details of the psychosocial support will be, will be defined in the coming period. But COPI in the past, and ISA in particular, implemented those activities with other projects, both funded by the Italian cooperation and by the European Union.
I have a question, maybe.
Yeah, no.
So if I don't go wrong, the main objective of the call for proposal for the emergencies project were the protection, right? So I have a question I would like to ask you. How you connected you said that you have some activities about rehabilitation in the school of sanitation facilities, but not only, also what is called beautification and greening, and how you connected those activities to the main topic of protection, and how you identified which activities need to be done.
Well, in parallel with the beautification, greening, and rehabilitation of sanitation facilities, a special attention will be given also to the security of the schools. So walls and ceilings will be rehabilitated as well. Since schools are the places where the youth basically receive their first approach to the society, it is important to have a welcoming and cozy space where they can grow and where their belonging to their school can increase. So on one side, participating to the beautification and greening activities should enhance their sense of belonging to the schools where they're going and where they spend a lot of time. On the other side, this kind of activities will try to prevent the possible risk of trauma to which the young in Jerusalem and Sharafat are daily exposed. So this is the link between the protection of the call was especially meant for the protection of refugees and displaced persons, or persons that could that are threatened to become displaced. Since especially in Sharafat, but also in the old city, the settlers' takeover of entire neighborhoods is really a problem. This will protect their status, both in the old city and Sharafat. I don't know if I answered that.
I mean, the school are in a bad status of conservation. Why? Because they are old, they were not constructed well, or there is a lack of stewardship in the kids? Because I know, I mean, sometimes here, I mean, glasses are broken, they throw, I mean, what was your feeling? I mean, there is, you were saying about beautification, maybe to increase the ownership on the school structure. The problem, the cause of the problem is because now they don't feel part of this. I mean, they are not really.
First of all, when you talk about the schools in East Jerusalem, and especially in the old city, it's not the schools that we all went when we were young. We're talking about houses that were made into schools. So basically they don't have a playground, they don't have really wide spaces to spend time. Even the classrooms are very small, they are very crowded. And with the Israeli municipality, they don't also give the permission for Al-Awqaf or anybody to rehabilitate or to change or to do anything. In addition, it's very hard for the people from living inside the old city to go to schools outside the old city because it's a long way to move. So it's easier and more safety for them to have their own children studying inside the old city. Unfortunately, there's nothing much to do because, as you all know, the old city is very crowded and it's not really easy to build in Jerusalem, even if it's outside the old city. So from what I saw when I used to go to visit the schools, they don't have that basic needs. And if you go to the bathrooms, if you go to I don't know, the kitchen, the water, it's really, really hard. And trying to give those students a kind of safety when they go to that private area, I think it will give them a good attention, and it will give them a good more esteem, let's say, for continuing their whole day. For the beautification and greening, when greening, we're talking something maybe environmental, because we will let the children plant something green, maybe small plants or something inside the schools, which will give them like something to take care of, something to love there. Beautification will give them like a beautiful place, and we're not talking about something really professional. Maybe they will draw something on the wall with the help of a professional or somebody who really use this technique for children to relieve, let's say, their anger, relieve their themselves, and live in a safe place where they think that they did it with their own hands, as you were talking about the Hungarian experience. So this is the main idea.
I have another question. Like, how the project is thinking to, like, let's say, sustain those green spaces, or like there will be on the responsibility of the school. There will be some committee created. There will be some training, some awareness to the kids. How it's been.
We will do a training for the teachers and counselors on how to manage the violence and how to do activities with the students, and part of it will be how to keep these things like a habit in the school. This is the first thing. The second, the school itself will take care about these things under the supervision of the Directorate of Education. and the CBO that we are, the NGO that we are working with, Saraya, they have such programs usually, so they can keep also following up.
Also, I think if the enhancement of the sense of belonging of the students toward the schools will be successful, hopefully their attention towards the greening activities that they conducted in the past will not be completely, erased from their minds.
Okay, so it's like a process on like showing and
Yeah, exactly.
and then it, yeah. And just to continue with this, like if like after this project they will tell you, can you write another project to continue some activity like this or in the same area? You would have an idea of what to do.
With emergency funds or
Yeah,
development funds? Or,
same,
or
like,
without
yeah.
funds at all?
Exactly. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Just let's say a kind of planning, or if there were like some activities can be planned in the next step. I mean.
Well, the situation of the schools in Jerusalem, as far as I know, as the paradox I was talking with you 5 minutes ago, is that to speak about schools in Jerusalem, I have to go to Ramallah, to the Ministry of Education. So the possibility by the Palestinian Authority to control the schools inside Jerusalem is extremely reduced. So also for us to plan something in a medium or long period can be extremely challenging and tricky. Since the situation in Jerusalem is the one we know, most likely the students will need a psychosocial support for a long period. For some people, the psychosocial support should be focused more on a let's say professional basis. I mean, students that suffered the trauma should receive a very different psychosocial support. Our psychosocial support is meant for students that didn't receive a big trauma, and the psychosocial support is meant to prevent the risk of trauma. So since the situation is extremely tense and fluid, the situation can collapse in a very short period. So to plan for the long period is something, I mean, for my understanding, my personal, maybe someone has better ideas, is extremely tough. I don't know if you have better ideas.
No, I will just add to what you said that Jerusalem, it's a unique case. I mean, each neighborhood has its own violence and its own engagement with the Israelis. And for example, Silwan area, they have everyday clashes, and every day the settlers go, and when you go and talk with the people in Silwan, you feel that they are full of anger because of the situation that they are living. So you cannot think about Silwan the same way that you think about an area, for example, Beit Hanina, which is more safe, more peaceful there. The people have other things in their mind. The same for the old city, and the environment in Jerusalem is also changing very fast. In the past events where the violence started between the Palestinians and the Israelis in Jerusalem, so many parents they stopped their students from going to schools in the old city because it was really unsafe, and there was a huge fear that they may get killed on their way. Also, institutions they stopped their employees from going there. So, in order to see, we have to check each case by each case to give something really sufficient for the students. But it's possible, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was referring to the broad violence environment in which they live. I mean, regardless of the clashes, I mean, the situation inside the old city where children live side by side with settlers that every day would like to to take over their houses is also if they somehow avoid a physical confrontation, so a physical impact with violence, they live in a violent environment. So this was my definition of violence. Maybe is something to add.
We're talking about all kinds of violence that students may face, even from the Israelis or from domestic violence, maybe something in their neighborhoods, any kind of violence. We'll try to empower them on how to deal with such violence in order not to affect their personality for the entire of their life.
I heard your question. I don't know if it is clear for. I mean, I'm the more distant, so if I understood.
Okay. My question was about if you are dealing in this project also about the violence inside the school. Statistics show that there is a very high degree of violence inside the schools. There are cases of teachers beating the students or bullying among the students. You're also dealing with these things. And how do you work in this case with teachers and students?
Well, teachers and school counselors are part of the target of the project, as well as the parents of the students. To have a daily control of the classes, so eventual violence from the teachers to the students is of course impossible for an NGO. It's not also, I think, our job to daily monitor a situation like this. The teachers will receive trainings about violence. If a teacher beats the children, I don't think it's can be up to me to take actions. I mean, I can report violence to someone. I will explain later, but I cannot have an impact on the teacher. I mean, I don't have the authority. The problem is also if I receive. I mean, if someone will report me that the teacher X is beating children, to whom I should report the violent action? I mean, I cannot report it to Israeli authorities, or should I report it to Israeli authorities, since they are the authority in Jerusalem de facto? I can report it to the Ministry of Education, so they are, let's say, the other side of the authority inside Jerusalem schools. So and of course, I mean, we try to impact also teachers through trainings, but if a 50-year-old teacher is beating his student, I don't think that trainings can be a solution, honestly.
Part of the empowerment for the students will be on children right, also for the parents. So basically they will know what is the bureaucratic way to solve this kind of problem. At the end, we are not the Ministry of Education, and we cannot force anyone not to do violence, but we can just make awareness or empowerment for the people not to do it. The Ministry of Education, as I knew from my meetings with them, they are paying attention for this, and I think that once the parents or the students or maybe the teacher are reporting for it, they will take a sort of action.
Might be this maybe one of the things that you think to cope with in the longer term? I mean, you will use this project to plan this kind of, I don't know, advocacy or support to actually work with this kind of violence. I mean, it has nothing to do with environmental sustainability, whatever, but it's a sustainability of a project, actually, no? Because if this is a problem felt, why don't you turn this in a opportunity to work in another project or in a longer term project, actually? And the other question was if you applied any kind of participatory approach in identifying which were the problem to be solved in the school, also regarding rehabilitation, and this the intervention to do with beautification and greening. If those activity you will involve the students or the teacher, for example, that might be the one that will take care of this in also designing them, deciding which will be, or doing competition, whatever.
Well, the project proposal, I didn't write the project proposal, but the project proposal was wrote on the basis of Al-Saraya and Kopi past experience, and also on the basis of a broad need assessment conducted in the schools in which the project will take place, and also on the basis of the Ministry of Education suggestions. In relation to the sustainability, I mean, according to me, the biggest obstacle to sustainability in working in schools in Jerusalem partially is because of the paradox of working in school in Jerusalem and speaking with the ministry in Ramallah. But on the other side, the problem is the chronic lack of funds. I mean, the ones that should act on the school, both if we think about Israeli authorities or Palestinian authorities. On one side, the Israeli authorities do not have exactly the willingness to act on schools as we would. On the other side, the Palestinian Authority does not have the possibility to work inside school. So, if let's say the management or the enhancement of schools' condition is up to us, I mean the international community, NGOs, and so on, we depend on funds. It is, I mean, we all do this job, we know that we depend on funds. So for long-term planning, we should be sure that the focus of the international community and the focus of fundings will remain the same in Jerusalem, and still is not enough for having schools with, let's say, European standards. Personally, I don't see a long-term solution with the actual political situation. I mean, there is a sort of national authority that cannot act where its population live. So I think that until this situation will be like this, we cannot be the main stakeholders of a change. This is my idea, but maybe I misunderstood.
No, but I completely agree with you. I mean, I don't think that NGO has to be the main stakeholder in this, but thinking that maybe there is a lack of institution won't be a solution to involve more families and teachers and whatever in owning and having a kind of a stewardship of the school. I mean, just for an example, but also in Italy, in some situation, we are bringing material to school, in the public school, whatever, because sometimes they don't have funds to buy this. And parents are really involved somehow to maintain the school and because they want to be sure that the kids have, but even in really like physical work sometimes to repair things, paint, and we know it's something that the state is supposed to do, but through the involvement and working with the school and so might be maybe an idea also to work with the families, to involve more them in, being supportive in maintaining the school and taking care about the school for this longer term. I mean, not solution, it's not solution, it's longer term vision actually.
I totally agree. This is the reason behind the rationale of the project. I mean, the project on one side will target students, will target also the parents of the students and the teachers of the students. The problem are the numbers, basically. I mean, targeting 50, 100 parents of the students is something. The problem is that the residents in the old city are 35,000. So, I mean, this is the point. But no, I totally agree with you. I mean, our approach is to target all the stakeholders inside the schools with partnership with Al Saraya, that is part of the civil society, of the Palestinian civil society in Jerusalem.